How's it going, people? Welcome back to that car vlog channel. If for some reason you don't know, plenty of reasons why you wouldn't know, especially if you've never heard of me before. My name is Andy, and in this video we'll be doing the rear suspension drop on the C10. Now this is, of course if you don't already know, this is going to be one video in a series of videos that we're doing on this truck. We got one going on where I'm doing head gaskets and stuff on the engine. I got a fuel tank on the other side. We're going to be doing a sending unit on that. Those are separate videos. This video is going to be rear suspension drop. Now, thanks to some great people helping me, we managed to lift the bed off. I took all those bolts out, and the bed's sitting over here on these pallets. And it's going to give me access to all of this hardware. Let me get my flashlight because it's starting to get dark. All we're probably going to do today is the intro to this particular video. Anyway, I got all this hardware. We got the bolts and nut on the leaf spring hangers up front. Got the nuts and bolts for the rear shackles. And we got the hardware that attaches the shocks. Now, remarkably, I'm not going to need very many tools for this. I've got a crescent here because I don't own a regular box end wrench that's big enough, i.e. 7/8. So this crescent's going to go on the nuts in various places. This is what's going to hold the nuts in place. Now here we have a 13/16 socket. This socket fits, if I'm remembering correctly, this socket goes on the shackle bolts, as well, those are the leaf spring hangers. It also goes on both of the shackle bolts on each side, and it goes on the lower bolts for the shocks. And then this one is a 15/16, and this is going to be the one that we need for the top shock nuts. And now I cannot get it to come off. Come back here. Thank you. One hindrance I do have is I do not own an extension for a 1/2 inch drive. So I'm going to need to locate one of those or buy one. Now, since these are very old, rusty, frozen on, hard to get off, I have this. This is going to be my leverage. It is sized perfectly that my 1/2 inch drive ratchet will just fit right down in there. I've already tested it on one of the bolts, and this thing's going to get this job done very nicely. So thank God for that. Now, before I can do anything on this truck, I've got to jack this rear end up and support it on stands, because there can't be any weight on the rear axle. So the first thing I need to do, jack it up, support it on stands, remove the wheels, and that should give me plenty of room. And removing the wheels is going to definitely help with weight. Also, I almost neglected to say, I mentioned it in the video for the head gasket job. However, I'm going to mention the same thing in here. I'm going to tag each clip with the day that I do it on, just to give everybody an idea of how long it takes your average Flatbrook person to modify their truck. So today is Saturday, April 6th. This is the evening time, so like I said, it's probably what we're going to get done as the intro to the video. And there we go. The truck is now supported on stands on wood blocks because it's kind of high off the ground for now. And the wheels are off. We're not touching the ground. There's some corrosion here. And this is the case on both sides. There's a wheel. No wheels in that bed over there. We are ready now to start taking things off as soon as I locate a 1/2 inch drive extension, because the shocks need to come off first. But right now, you see I'm using the big giant stand light. It is dark, it's time to go in. So we will pick this up the next possible day. And here we are next day. It is April 7th and it's light outside. check this out. You see the original color of the truck here. And here on the bed. You can see where someone before me came and spray painted this dark blue on it and then brush painted this red-ish color. Touch up overspray, brush painted the hood. Anyway. Now it's time to start taking things apart.
He has finally took off the bed.
And of course I'm trying to find my stuff. 15/16 socket, 1/2-inch drive extension. Child in the way. So we're going to take this and our long pole, and we're going to start by loosening the top nut that holds the shock to the frame.
Whoa!
Okay, that nut is off for the shock. Now we have to take this lower hardware off. Now this one is the 13/16, I do believe. Yes. So I gotta get me here, and I gotta get this guy with a monkey wrench, crescent wrench, on this nut here, and we'll take that out. Alright. So I got the bolt out of the bottom.
Where am I now?
Required my punch and a hammer. Here's the bolt. Now we got to get this top one out. Same procedure, hammer and a punch. And there's the shocks. We have no more shocks on the truck.
Oh my god. And it's raining.
Now I'll get to work. I think I'll get to work on these shackles, because there's no grinding required to do shackles. So I got to take this bolt and nut out. I got a bolt here and a nut on the other side of that have to come out, and the new shackles can go in. Alright, just like with the lower shock bolts, we're putting a crescent here. I put a bolt through the frame to kind of hold the crescent from turning around. And then we'll put our 13/16 on here. We'll get our big pole and we'll take that off. And there we have it. The top bolt's out, the leaf spring is dropped, bottom bolt's out, and here comes the old shackle. So we'll give that a toss. Now let's go in here, get one of the new shackles. Oh yeah. Check this out. And here we have it, a new lowering shackle. I'll set these together on the ground so you can see the difference. This is going to raise the leaf spring at the back 2 inches up. That's going to give us 2 of our 4 inches of drop. Now when you put this on, make sure it goes on in the same orientation as the stock. The stock shackle has this open area here facing the rear, so make sure that it's the same way on the new one. We'll put this in, we'll use the existing hardware. So down here, just set that in here. I may have to give it a little bit of a pounding with a wood block. Alright, so there it is. It's lined up. Take our stock hardware, run that back through. It'll go all the way with a little bit of encouragement. And there we are. Now we'll take the washer, set it on there, and the nut, and we'll thread it on, but we're not going to tighten it just yet. Alright, now what I've done is I've taken this floor jack, put it underneath the axle here so we can lift up and get these leaf springs into position, because that axle's heavy. And then I'll raise that up. So that's up. Hold this. Aim it right at there. Thank you. That's up. This is going to be anything but easy. not gonna work like this. And here it is. The new lowering shackle is in on the driver's side. Let's see, we're putting the factory hardware in, nut and bolt. Take our crescent and our 13/16 and tighten these things down. And there we are. Now we're completely installed. I've taken all the jacks out from under the axles. Now these jacks were necessary to lift the axle up and line it up with the hole in the shackle. And we had to have that little one over there to kind of lift the other side up and even it out. But that one's on. Now it should be time to start cutting away at this. First I need to take this bolt out, disconnect the leaf spring, and then actually we have to grind off all these rivets that hold this on, and the new one gets put on with new hardware. Now I've got to take some things off the leaf springs. I'm sure we already noticed. I've got stuff draped around them. I looped my taillight wiring so that it didn't drag the ground. I was moving the truck around. And I kind of tied my exhaust up here because I disconnected it at the front from the manifolds to do the head gasket job. And so it's just dragging the ground. Now it doesn't matter so much. I can untie it from the leaf spring. So this is not a red-necked exhaust job. This is necessity. And now it is Wednesday, April 10. Just to keep the whole, let everybody know how long this takes. And the next step we have is removing this leaf spring hanger. I've already detached the leaf spring from the hanger, as we can see. In order to remove this hanger, I have to grind off 6 rivets on this hanger. Now the new one, which is right here, has holes pre-drilled and comes with the hardware to attach it in place of this one. And we'll do a little, hold it up here and mock it up just to show the difference in how that leaf spring is going to sit once I get it on there. Between this and the shackles, that's going to provide the full drop that we're looking for. So, here's my Harbor Freight grinder and Harbor Freight grinding wheel. And of course, for safety, and because I'm already half blind, safety glasses. Because being all the way blind just would make that project impossible for me. Okay, so I believe the first rivet is ground off. I don't know how well it can be seen. There's a very faint circular outline right here. Right like that. And that is the rivet. But it kind of blends in with the rest of the metal, obviously, because it's all ground down the same level. So now I have to try to get my punch and hammer and beat that through. And back to the project. Today is Saturday, April 13th. I've done a bit of work off camera, actually. I've come and I've ground down all the rest of the rivets on this, and I've actually started to pry the hanger away from the frame. It's not an easy process though. I have my longest pry bar and a hammer. So we're going to set up, and this guy needs to move because I need room to work with the pry bar. Thank you. And let's get to it. Let's bring this back a little ways. I don't want to damage my lens with the hammer. And there it is. The old exhaust hanger is now on the ground. Now I just got to take and I've got to try to punch out the remainder of these rivets with my hammer. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is right here where this rivet is, I'm just going to smack it straight through the frame. Same here. That one actually came out. We'll search for them in a minute. Hope that wasn't too loud for headphone users. Okay, so two of the rivets, these bottom two, just kind of popped out when I hit them hard. The rest of them, I pushed them through most of the way. Now I just need my punch and my hammer. My punch is in a vice grip. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4 for a total of 6. And here's one that didn't hit the ground. So that's what we have there. Kind of like a little mushroom shape. That's where it ground off, and that's the back side. So now we have empty holes to use. However, I gotta show you something. Okay, so here we have the old leaf spring hanger. I swear to God, I keep saying exhaust hanger. I'm not really sure on that, but I keep leaf spring hanger. And here we have the new leaf spring hanger. Now we can see, obviously, this, you can totally see how this is going to drop the other end of the leaf spring, how much shorter it is. Now in this long bed truck, the 3 holes on the old hanger, 1, 2, 3. Over here on the new hanger, though, a little closer together. I'm going to have to mark and drill into the frame for this hole on each side. My 1/2-inch bit. Not only, however, am I going to drill those fresh holes in the frame, I'm also going to have to use my 1/2-inch and enlarge the existing holes to a 1/2-inch. Got my step drill. I've already drilled out this hole here to a 1/2-inch. I'm going to finish taking this one to a 1/2. And now the new hardware bolts should fit. Okay, now not every aftermarket thing is going to be perfect. You see, I've went ahead and just kind of attached the lower bolts to the new hanger after drilling the holes out. That's just to hold this thing in place and line them up. Now, if you can see in here, the top holes don't line up perfectly with the holes in the new hanger. So I'm going to take this 1/2-inch drill bit, I'm going to drill those out to kind of edit the holes, if you will. And that should not be a problem because they're going to have washers in behind everything. And before this is all said and done, I'm going to put some thread locker on those to really make sure nothing comes loose. So let's drill those out now. And for that, I'm going to have to use a normal drill bit, not my step bit, but this is a 1/2-inch drill bit. And here it is. I've drilled out all the holes to the correct size for the hardware, and I've attached it to the frame, but this is not the final attachment. This is a mock-up just to kind of check fitment, as well as the washers and nuts on the back side in relation to those edited holes. But now this has to come back off because I have to edit these holes, and I'll show you why. This is the factory leaf spring eye bolt that goes through here and holds the spring on. This is a 9/16 diameter shaft. This is a 1/2-inch. So I have to get my step bit again and drill this out to a 9/16. but I have to do that on the outside and on the inside. So this hanger has to come back off so that I can drill out both these holes to this 9/16 size. Alright, so we have the new hanger clamped to the table. It's not going anywhere. I have my step bit back in the drill. And this time we're going to go to 9/16 of an inch. So we don't have to go actually very far at all. It's almost completely there. In fact, the step bit says it is there. I don't like that. Let's go get that bolt again. Because when I measured this bolt, it was 9/16 inch. So yeah, that's just too much. It's too hard to get in. Now, there we go. Here's my 9/16 inch open end wrench. When I set the shaft of the bolt in here, it is a perfect fit. I know this is a 9/16 shaft. And my step bit, the 9/16 step fits right in. So it must not need to go very far. We may have to go to a 5/8, but I don't see that being an issue. Almost. Obviously lots of vibrations around here. My PB blaster just fell off the bench spool, but now that fits through, let's do the other side. Okay, clamping force on. And let's do this one. And test fit. Alright, we go through both sides now. Beautiful. Alright, so I made sure to get the vacuum over here. Vacuum up all those metal shavings that I could, because that makes a lot of mess. But now we're going to unclamp this thing, we're going to take it over to the truck, and we're going to fit all this stuff up now. Alright, so here we have the leaf spring has been jacked up into place. Now I used the big jack and a block of wood to push up the front. And this little jack just kind of lift the axle up at the U-bolt so that it would kind of push it this way and line it up with the hole. And just uses the jacks to fine tune and line it up. Now I've got to take the big bolt, one of the washers that is with it, a factory bolt, factory washer, and slide it through here. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to have to probably do this off camera, I'm not sure. But I've got 2 factory washers, that's the other one, and 2 of like 6 of the washers that fit this bolt that came with the kit. Now these washers are going to have to go inside here, here, for spacing purposes. then there's this washer on the back side and the nut. And there we go. So the new leaf spring hanger is on the front, and the shackle was already on the rear. I'll kind of show what happened here. Now this bolt, turns out I only needed one of the silver washers. There just wasn't space in here for two of them, which was just fine. But with a little bit of pounding with a hammer, this bolt went through, and it's secured on the other side. It's tight. It's not torqued all the way, because we really don't want to torque any of the bolts all the way until the whole suspension is put together. Kind of like anything else, really. Now I'll show you here, this new hanger, just like the old one, although they were spaced differently, has 2, 3, it's getting a little dark here, 3 bolt holes. There's 2 bolts, there's a hole over top of it. I hope you can see it. So again, it is getting kind of dark. Let me get my light.
Hi.
There, light. So 3 bolt holes. So I thought I was going to have to drill a new hole here and a new hole here. This kit only came with 8 bolts, so 4 for each side. So I'm using those. I may later on down the road go ahead and tap those holes and buy some more hardware, but I'm not quite sure yet. I might just thread lock all those, torque them down real good, and they should be fine. But there it is. It's all put together. Now it's time to go do the other side. But since I've shown the process on this side, I'm going to do that one off camera. And the next clip is going to be that finished. And once that's all done, we can put it back on the ground and put shocks on. And there it is. All the work done off camera to the other side, the passenger side of the truck. Everything exactly the same as on the driver's side. Brand new leaf spring hanger, 4 bolts. Brand new leaf spring shackle, top setting. Now it's time to put the tires back on, lower it to the ground, and continue to the next step. We're almost done with the rear. Alright, now that the truck is on the ground, first of all, I don't know if anyone can tell, but this, I can tell, is definitely lower. Of course I know it's going to be because I put a lowering kit on it. Now the next thing I've got to do is install these grease fittings into the shackles. I've already done the one on the other side. Got to do this one. Now, I put this tape on here last week, about a week ago, because it was going to rain, and this hole for the grease fitting was pointing upwards, and I did not want rain to get into there. So to put this grease fitting in, excuse the shaky camera, I got a 5/16 nut driver here. Now this is not threaded, so you have to give it some pressure, put some effort into turning it. It has to cut its own threads. Not a big deal. This thing makes it easy, and then I just switch over to the ratchet to finish driving it in. There we go, it's in. I'm going to turn my tools and get my grease gun, because I want to grease these fittings before doing anything else. So I'm pretty sure everyone knows how to use a grease gun. Just pop it over the fitting and start squeezing. And there we go. Grease fittings are in, and it is greased. Perhaps a little much, but that's fine. Now, according to the instructions, I have to climb up on the truck. Just give it some bouncing, just kind of seat everything, so probably the most fun of the whole job, bouncing on the back of the truck. Once I get done bouncing, I can do the final torquing on all the bolts to hold leaf spring components together. Then we can put shocks on, but that's going to be another clip on another day. And now it's April 19th, and it has rained quite a bit, but that's just fine. I still get the final amount of this work done. So now, the last clip we bounced on the bumper, because that's what the instructions said. Between that clip and now, I did get one of the shocks installed on the truck. I did this off camera, so one, I would know how to do, the other one to show you, and two, I had a little bit of confusion with the hardware. Yes, I know I probably should have done this side off camera, and then did that side as the instructional, but whatever. Anyway, my confusion. For some reason, I was having a hard time figuring out what some of this hardware was for. So here we had two of these odd-looking bolts. Big threaded end, small threaded end, smooth shaft. Had two of these big nuts that fit on this end, and two of the small nuts that fit on that end. Now it also came with some washers. Where's that washer? I'll find it in a minute. Anyway, it also came with two of these smaller silver washers and 6 of these larger ones. Now, I had a time figuring out what that hardware went to, and before I realized what it went to, I did this. I stuck a washer in here, right there, to kind of fill a space on the inside of this hanger. I did the same thing on the other side. Also, when I took out this shackle bolt, I somehow managed to lose the washer, so I used a third one in place of that. Now, I should probably be mad about that, but I'm not. Because, especially here, that's just less bending and squeezing I have to do on the hanger. So that's just fine. So, I got me some more washers. I took one of the other ones off the shock over there. And I got me some washers. And these should do just fine. I matched them up. I'll walk back over here. Now I can show you how we replace the shocks with this kit. Now before I go any further, I just want to let everyone know that this Max Track suspension kit from Suspension Specialist is a complete kit. It's easy to assemble. However, the instructions are not amazing. There's not a diagram that tells you what everything is. There's really just a couple of sheets here, and the biggest part, all this does is tells you how to detach and rehang the leaf springs. But in my unboxing video, if anyone saw that, I assumed that the shocks that were tucked inside of the coil springs went to the front. Sounded logical, right? Well, as it turns out, I was wrong. This is a front shock. Excuse the bad camera work. This is a front shock. It's kind of short. There's no strap holding it together. That's fully extended. Come over here. Hold that up. If I put it down where it would attach to the bottom, we can see it just doesn't meet up. These were in boxes by themselves. And that one just slid out of the box. And this is the rear shock. I get my pliers here and we cut this black strap. There we go. And now we can see it extends. This is the rear shock that goes on this truck. So yes, packaging can be a little misleading from time to time. Don't ever just assume things, because it may not be true. I learned just by kind of noticing differences. Like I said, the Max Track appears to be a good setup. It's just a little bit finicky to figure out how it goes together. But really, it's pretty simple. And here we go, quick comparison. New shock. Ooh, right back up. Old shock. I think they're bad. Alright, so first off we have to prep the new shock to go on the truck. Now I've already done that off camera, so I'll just show you here. Now this is the top of the shock. If we look, we have top, we have bottom. This is the top. This is that odd looking bolt. Now what I had to do was put a large washer over the smooth shaft, then put that shaft into this eyelet hole here and actually hammer that on through. It's kind of stiff in there. You need some encouragement, so you do have to kind of hammer it through. Just go easy with it. Don't go all at once. Keep your eye on it. You'll be good. Once I got that done, come over here, slide the smaller washer on, and attach this 11/16 nut. Now, and of course, tighten that down. That's all there is to the prep. Now, we come over here to the truck. Here's the side it's going on, the passenger side. First things first, I'll take one of my big washers and just slide it on like this, right over on the large threaded portion. Now make sure the shock goes behind the brake line and insert into the hole on the frame. It'll just kind of hang there just fine. Now the other big washer goes right here. I have a little bit of wriggling to do. But there, now that's in place. And I'm dropping things. Now just get my big nut here. Tighten that on, finger tight. That'll be good. Now take my crescent, put it over that hex area on the bolt. Take my 15/16 on extension, and we're going to tighten this thing down. And now it's hanging, and it's not completely tightened because I still have to be able to swing this up here to install it. Now to attach it to the bottom, you're actually using the factory hardware from the bottom of the old shock. Here's a factory bolt. There's a lock washer that went in behind this nut. Now for a little bit of added security, you might say, I grabbed this lock washer from the top hardware of the old shocks. That hardware doesn't get reused, but this can. I'll just stick this right here on behind the head of the bolt, and I think that'll, that's a little extra. I did that on the other side, and that'll be just fine. Now, this shock is a bit long. It is still a shorter shock for use with this kit, but it's still a little long, so it's gonna have to kind of compress it and line it up with the holes. Once that's done, very simple. Lock washer on the bolt first. That bolt will slide through here, through the shock, and through here. Now that we have the bolt through, we're going to take our other lock washer, stick it over the end of the bolt, take our nut, screw that on. If I can get it, there we go. Finger tighten that as much as possible. Now we're going to take our crescent wrench, we're going to hold the nut with the crescent. Now we're going to get rid of the 15/16 and get our 13/16. Now, oddly enough, the nut is a 15/16. The bolt's a 13. It's just easier for me to hold the nut with the wrench and tighten the bolt. Okay, we've tightened that bolt down there. I swapped back over to my 15/16 on extension. I tightened all this up here. And that's it. That's shock mounting. And that is pretty much the end. Now, the instructions said bounce on the suspension, make sure it's all settled before doing the final torque down on the hanger bolt and the 2 shackle bolts. I've already done that, but since I put the other shock on, may as well do it again. And I'll save all that stuff and just do that off camera. You've already seen me bounce on it once. But that's it. This is complete. Very simple to do. For someone like me, it is a bit time consuming because I work a lot. And I kind of had to figure out the instructions too. I had to get a few things here and there. Little stuff. But pretty much anyone with basic tools who likes to turn a wrench can do a suspension drop on this thing. Now, yeah, you do have to do some grinding. Take the old hangers off. I have a Harbor Freight angle grinder and a couple of 4-inch wheels, or 4.5-inch wheels. And, I mean, I did that myself. And I've never even done any grinding before this project. So, drop dead simple. It's just a little time consuming. This could all be done in an afternoon if you had the time. I don't have the time. But there it is. It is good to go. All I've got to do is I'm going to take the new mounting hardware for the new hangers and I'm going to put some thread lock on those, since obviously that's not factory hardware, and there's no torque specifications for any of this. Now, I'm sure I could probably find torque specs for the hangers and shocks and all that junk, but there's no torque specs for this. And the instructions are iffy, which is one reason why I had to kind of figure out the shock hardware. But if my dumbass could figure it out, anybody can do this. So, once again, I'll go ahead and put my thread locker on these, I'll torque these big bolts down, and this rear drop is complete. With that, this video for the rear drop on this truck is over. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, found it informative, a good watch even for an idiot like me doing it for the first time ever. If you did like it, if you want to see more content with this truck, because there is more to come, make sure to subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell. Plenty more going on. That was just the rear. Still got to do the front. Got gas tank work, got engine work ongoing. Subscribe, ring the bell, follow me on Facebook and Instagram at that car vlog channel. Hope you all enjoyed it. Hope you have a good one.